All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shelf Hangers. Joining me, I'm Wonelli. I feel like a robot sometimes when I do these intros because I don't have it ever written down, but it's me, Wonelli, guy that runs away from race cars, makes you look fast as fuck, and usually your favorite driver's favorite photographer. Joined with me, driver of the week for this week for Wonelli. He doesn't get any special privileges. He had a pretty good weekend. 2 wins, 2 second places. Good weekend overall. 3 different tracks for the mini late model king, Jesse Isidore.
The crowd was wild. Even my dogs are going wild, dude.
The Jesse fan club grows every day. And then also joining us, Jason Fenton. I don't have any good stats about him. He wasn't driver of the week this week. He wasn't even, well, he led laps in the cluster truck league. That was cool. So, hey,
Yeah.
First time ever, I think, even though Marty begs to differ, but you led laps, and quote from Marty Sakala, the broadcaster for the Cluster Trucks League, potentially almost one of the most boring cluster truck races on the face of the planet. So I guess that's something, so there's that. How's everybody's weekend, boys?
It was good. It was long. It was it was overall a pretty good weekend for me,
You won the Wonelli night.
I did win the Wonelli night, and then I got a big fancy check, and life is good. Yeah, I'll take it.
So
it's a good weekend.
Funny story. And I know we promoted it last week on the show. The 5th anniversary of Wonelli race for the E-Mods at McKean County happened, and so that's like the only race for the E-Mods there all year, from what I understand. And I thought I was just sponsoring that race. Whatever. I'm like, cool. I get my own race. We're doing something cool. And I'm hanging out at Jesse's pit. I'd heard that he won. They're doing Victory Lane. He's probably like, let me tell you something, Marty. Or whatever, taking over the interview. Let me tell you something, dude. He actually ripped his driver's suit off like Hulk Hogan.
Oh, that's just because he's such a big man.
Yeah, and he comes back and he shows me the check and he's like, I won your race, dude. And I'm like, what? I didn't realize, and this, maybe it's because I don't read anything past
and
how
you
much
hauled
something's
the thing to the track.
I didn't even haul those. Those were made by Kurt and Bonnie Stebbins. So they did all the other classes. A lot of people were upset they couldn't win the check with my face on it because up until Thursday there was only 1 check with my face on it, and now there's 6. But anyways, I didn't know it. Jesse shows me the check. He's like, I won your race, dude. I'm like, what? So that was funny. And then I saw the posts on Facebook, everybody tagging us, and they won the Wonelli night, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. So it wasn't just for the E-Mods, even though I put all my work into the E-Mods. And for those who didn't win, hopefully we can do another Wonelli night. Anyways, long weekend for me too. 4 races, 3 days. A little burnout, a little tired. And yeah. So let's get into our first topic. We touched on it last week that we were going to talk about it. Well, I guess this week, or we almost talked about it last week, about aerodynamics in dirt track racing. But I think it's been pretty prevalent talking about it in the late model scene as of late, considering late models used to be these, and this is before my time, before I was really paying attention to anything, how they used to kind of be these giant bricks of cars, pictures that I've seen from back in the day, you didn't have all these guys having all these, I wouldn't say tricked out aero kits on their car, but it's something that even in the local scene, people are starting to think about. And I guess is not the aero wars would be kind of the term that was used in NASCAR. Is aerodynamics in all this development to try to eke out every millisecond killing dirt track racing? Because it seems like there was a time in racing where innovation was like that, you try to cheat up your car or try to find holes in the rule book, and now the rule book is so small that all of your tenths and hundreds of a second and thousandths of a second are coming down to, well, we're spending time in a wind tunnel with our freaking super late model. So you guys know more than me about this. I just take photos of the dang things, but I mean, you start seeing guys doing weird stuff with their roofs or their nose pieces or their spoilers. And what do you guys? Well, what are your opinions on this?
You want to go first? You want me to go first, Jason?
Okay, you can. I'm googling some stuff up, but I guess I'll start. Late models. So I mean, we can go through the kind of transition of what late models were. They started as kind of a stock bodied car that evolved into different shapes and different forms. People kept manipulating different parts of it here and there. If you go back to the 70s, it literally looked like a showroom model car. And then through the 80s, they started getting squared off bodies with angles on it. And by the late 80s, early 90s, there were these cars that had literally like triangulated noses, completely flat sides, billboards on them and whatnot. And, the wedge cars. And then it was reined back into where it was almost a brick with a slightly rounded nose on it that laid flat onto the track. And then you kind of get to where we are now. That was kind of a long period of that, but then you get to where we are now, and you've got these noses on the cars the noses create so much downforce, and the cars, the left rears are 54 inches high or however high you're allowed with whatever droop rule, and trying to get that up in the air to then force the air down on the car to force the left rear in. We've gone through these phases where cars were aero dependent, and then they were mechanical grip dependent, and now we're back in an aero grip dependent era where if you listen to a lot of the big races where they're talking, you hear them, they say, I was no good behind anybody because there was no air on the nose, so they had no front steer. I think, it's fun to watch these cars, but yet it's a pain because that maybe the racing could be better if we didn't have it. But as you said, are they trying to get every little tenth out of it they can? Absolutely. If we look at Eldora that just happened, they ended up having a body template there, and one of the things they ended up measuring was the width of the nose pieces on the cars. And I think there was one person that had to narrow their nose piece some 10 inches. Holy cow, 10 inches, that's a lot of extra air that is getting grabbed and then pushing that car down on the track. So especially on a track like that where they're going to run that fast, if you're getting your tires pushed that much more into the dirt, you're going to probably steer better and be faster. But, that's only really one time that you've seen lately that they've kind of taken into the rules there and measured stuff out on the cars. But, as you said, the wind tunnel thing, cars now, the noses are skewed slightly to the right, the bodies are sucked in, the bodies are actually moved to the left of the center of the chassis, so you're creating almost a side panel off the side of the right side of the car, which is going to create your side force, help you create more downforce. There's so much body manipulation going on. I remember back with the East Bay when they had the Winter Nationals or whatever, they had an overhead view of Kyle Bronson's car, it must have been. And I mean, if you looked at it, it literally looked like somebody cut a foot and a half off the right side of the car and put it on the left from where they were trying to manipulate the body that much. It's I'm not fully sure it's the direction that racing needs to go with the aero on the car, but I'm not sure what we can do at this point to reel it in and take it another direction to keep cost. Well, I don't know. I don't know, Jesse, what are your thoughts or whatever?
I have two questions before we get to Jesse. Maybe this might spur some good conversation here. You were talking about, and I remember most of my stuff is just, rednecks at racetracks saying something or listening to the elders of the sport, just being like, hey, what was it like X, Y, and Z? And when they were used to putting billboards and all those crazy things on the side of cars, when Aero was like this, they were like, oh, aerodynamics, that's cool. And then it went, because I'm guessing the rules came into play and it became back to mechanical. Now it's aero. So it's just a cycle of I think racing for dirt track racing.
I think there's part of it as a cycle. Actually, what part of the rules were for the late 80s, early 90s that eliminated the wedge cars was the fact that the bodies of these cars were getting so expensive. It went from people running aluminum bodies to then you have these people running these Lexan sideboards, and they were getting fiberglass pieces made. And all of a sudden, back then, the bodies just got so far out of price that it's cyclical. We're at that point again. Those that were competitive outspent on the body. Now we're at a point where those that are competitive are outspending on shocks and stuff like that. But it was the rules that brought the late model bodies back away from the wedge style.
So, like, another thing to keep in mind too is that we went in the 80s, like 70s, 80s, maybe 90s. I'm not sure when the rules changed first time. Oh, good Lord, sorry. Everybody will tell you that the bodies were ridiculously expensive. That it was like guys were out basically driving wedge billboards, and that's when they started reeling the body rules in. And I think that's a really important part of it, but we're doing the same thing a different way. So like, was it Hudson O'Neill's car that everybody was whining about? The 99, which one is that? That's
Moran.
Donald, that's O'Neill, right? Or no, Moran's car. Sorry, you can tell how much of a boomer I am. I don't watch any racing other than my own, I guess. I don't know, but everybody was weenie whining about that car, and probably for good reason, right? Because it's so contorted. Like, it's the nose is shifted over. Looks like maybe the right rear is shifted over and the left rear's bowed out, or vice versa. But that car is so contorted it like doesn't even look right in photos. And
what it is the left side, like at the hood, they literally are moving, or the front of the cockpit and everything, they're moving the body to the left. They're leaving the right rear where it was, but the front and center of the car is shifted to the left.
Right. So we're doing the same thing in a different way because we have all these body rules to try to keep it in check, right? But so now they're just like, well, there's no rule about how far over I can cock the nose, and then there's no rule about the center line of the deck, right? So they're just moving everything over to try to play aero games, which, the truth be told, I think when you're playing aero games like that, it probably helps you a dramatic amount in some situations, and it probably hinders you a dramatic amount in other situations, right? Because, I've been told the reason he does that is to dirty up the air behind him. So it's not so much... Sorry. But it's not so much an aerodynamic advantage for him as it is a disadvantage for the guys behind him, is what I've been told. Now, I don't know anything about wind tunnel numbers. I'm no aerodynamics guy. I'm way more into suspension and chassis and stuff like that, right? But there's obviously something going on there because he looks great this year, right? So I do think we're going to have to reel it back in. I think we're going to end up going the template method, like where you have to drive through a body template. I think that's probably the only way forward. Wouldn't you say? How else do you reel it in?
So, you can go with the template, and if you look it up, they somewhat took a template to Eldora, but it left so much open space. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, we'll look at NASCAR with templates too, they've gone away from templates to now to a scanner, because your template only can measure so many spots, that you then manipulate everything in between where that is. And I just, it's crazy. And like you say, wind tunnel, I can, back at one point, Jim Bernheisel took a car to a wind tunnel, and he developed, like the laser lid, his rock guard, and some other things. That there was a piece that went behind the driver's seat, all trying to kind of direct the air around the driver in a cleaner manner, and this and that. And then you've got people like Nick Hoffman that he took his UMP modifieds to a wind tunnel. He's based in Mooresville area, so there's wind tunnels around, and talk about a manipulated body. You put that car up at hike and everything. He was able to generate some pretty impressive numbers on side force and down force with some. I mean, it literally looked like the nose was turned 45 degrees from the rest of the body on the car. But that was one thing that did get reined in. But now you're looking at the late models, and it's not reined in there, because you're still seeing a lot of twist in the nose.
To also go on this about templates, and hopefully it doesn't ever get to the point where now all of our late models are getting laser scanned, because I feel like now we're starting to get out of the grassroots level of the racing. All this kind of goes to show is how crazy spending is getting, at least in the super late model scene. I'm sure all the top levels of dirt track racing, it's getting crazy. And then that kind of effect trickles down to the local scene. And I know I talked to a couple guys about, how much things are getting spent on whatever. Do you think going in that direction either helps or hurts local racing scenes? Because I know that I'm somebody that says, hey, we got to do something about this, or else we're going to lose our, quote, our headlining class around here is the supers, or if you go north, it's the big blocks. But I don't know anything about big blocks and all their, those things look like they're hard to do any aero advantage anything with, but when it comes,
they were developed on aero. So like the big block body as you see it now actually come from trying to develop the way to get it around Syracuse the fastest way possible. What was it? Gary Ballou, maybe the one that was a drug smuggler or whatnot. He had so much money to spend. He's like, here, spend all this money, make this car fast for me. And they called it the Batmobile. He showed up with this car that looked nothing like anybody else, because at the time they were still running like old Ford coupe bodies and whatnot. And he showed up with this square thing that had all this aero built into it.
Well, I mean, as much aero as you can get with open front wheels, right? Like,
right, yeah.
So like there's a, it's like the late model aero and the big block aero are always going to be totally different things. I mean, because like with the big block aero, there's nothing you can do about the open wheeled fronts, right? So what you're going to do is focus on funneling all the air to the rear spoiler or in the rear deck, and you're going to be trying to get as much forward drive to power through the lack of aero on the front, so.
But does this, I'm saying that if we start going the way of templates, now you're going to have to force these guys, the lower budget local teams or regional teams, to start having to also, now you're going to have to buy templates, make sure you're legal. So it's not just, I just think that we're starting to get to a point where something has to happen on the national scene in the super late models scene to, I guess, kind of lower cost in a way. Kind of. I know that going from aero to cost is kind of a thing. It might be not that far of a stretch, but
I think they're more associated than people think.
But it's, back in the day, we were talking about how people spent all their money on bodies and then it was all mechanical And now I don't know how many of the guys around here, because who am I to go walk up to any of these late model guys and be like, so what are you doing for your aero? What's your aero package or whatever? But these low budget racers that have that run supers that are just local track guys, that's gonna kill them if all these local tracks are like, we gotta have templates. And we talked about, I think, tire rules at one point, or maybe some off camera or off podcast we talked about tires. It's starting to get to a point where you're gonna start killing local super late model racing if we don't do something about how much all this is starting to cost to be competitive, or even just follow the rules at that point.
Right. Well, so to get back to your question about the cost of the everyday racer, on a grassroots level. So, I mean, kind of figure out how much money they spend to R&D a touring series car, and then cut that number in half. Right. So everything they're going to do on their level is going to raise the cost on our level just by proxy, right? Because these guys are going to get new cars every year, and they're going to sell their cars into the local pool of race cars. And now everybody might even be chasing that car depending on who buys it, so you're always going to have this push and pull, right? So shit kind of rolls downhill, and a lot of us are getting wet. You know what I mean? So it's
above the ankles, that's for sure.
Yeah, you can't have an increase in the cost of R&D on a national level and not see some trickle down in the local level, because NASCAR used to always have as soon as they'd outlaw stuff in NASCAR, they just start selling all that stuff off to the local guys, right? That was, for a long time, that was an integral part of what NASCAR is doing. I mean, they were developing stuff for the Xfinity cars or whatever it is, and then selling stuff off to guys at local racetracks. And because there was enough overlap in the rule set that people could get away with that. Well, then the template cars obviously changed that, but the same concept happens in dirt late models, So, and I don't know if these guys who are on these national touring series are changing their cars before they sell them off or whatever, but I'm going to assume they're not, because people literally fight over who gets to buy those cars. I mean, these guys will post their car for sale, and 13 minutes later it's sold. It's pretty crazy. So I would assume there's a benefit there, right?
Well,
and then those guys are going to dissect what's going on in that race car, and next thing you know, 10 guys in your local scene have whatever that guy had in that race car, and now you're off to the races. You're kind of circling the drain, because now everybody's buying parts to keep up with everybody else.
You just brought up a couple good points. NASCAR, not only did it sell off the parts, but there's actually a lot of minds in the dirt racing world that have spent a lot of time in the NASCAR world, and that's kind of where some of this evolution of the dirt late model in the past decade has really come from. Is shock technology has left NASCAR and come to the dirt world, kind of starting in 2008. Really was a big explosion of the shock technology. But crap, what was the other thing you were talking about? No, I forgot what it was. But yeah, the shock technology, really, you have a lot of guys, and I can say that down south here, there's a lot of guys that have spent time with cup teams and other teams that built shocks at that level, and now are developing shock packages. And it's, Penske Shock, I can say, it has a huge investment in the development of dirt late model shocks right now, and their growth. Bilstein has spent so much, but the NASCAR has spilled so much technology that it's totally changed the approach to dirt late model racing.
Truth be told, at NASCAR, they probably got wind a long time ago that NASCAR was going to start going towards this model, and these companies had massive R&D budgets, right? And you need to justify that R&D budget, right? So they probably just Lord, Daniel, why do you make us do this so late, dude? I want to die. But anyways, so these companies probably had this as a plan a long time ago, right?
Well,
we've already made all these moves in R&D, whether it be shocks, aero, whatever. How do we start retrofitting this to the average everyday race car driver so that we can make money on it now that it's basically going to be illegal? You know, I mean, I'm sure NASCAR was floating the idea of template cars a long time ago, you know, and they probably fought it until recently. And it just doesn't seem to me like it was an accident that, you know, all these NASCAR teams started taking this massive interest in dirt late model racing. Because, you know, I mean, I remember when like Integras were the go-to shock, and I don't even know if Bilstein made dirt shocks back in the like early to mid 2000s, you know.
To be honest, I have no clue when they really entered the game.
Mm-hmm. But I have a feeling that people have been kind of licking their finger and putting it to the wind for years and thinking, you know, if NASCAR does do the template thing, we need a backup strategy, which is where these companies like Penske and all these other places come into the conversation. Because if you were worried that you weren't going to be able to monopolize the NASCAR market anymore because of a template car, you would really start to think that you're going to put your tentacles into other industries, you know, because companies like that are a big machine and they can't just stop R&D, you know, because R&D is a machine that needs greased, right? So it's not something that like you can just drop your whole R&D department today and then in 5 years if NASCAR goes away from this template car shit, you can just pick up where you left off, right? Like it's R&D is something that you really got to have. The backbone is like, it's kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill, right? Things get easier as you discover more things and your team works together better. The method that they use gets better and better and better over time. So, you know, while they're obviously still working on their NASCAR programs, they're clearly dividing and conquering, right? Because we're getting all this new dirt technology from those same companies, you know.
And on that line, you know, there's other things we can say with that as far as like teams that no longer operate as a NASCAR team. They're still investing in development of parts. What was Dale Earnhardt Incorporated is now Earnhardt Technologies, and you know, if you're looking for bird cages for like a dirt late model, they're kind of one of the places you really look to. But especially in saying that, I guess here's this too. You know, as you say, the template car, the cookie cutter, the whatever you want to call it, the full-bodied Indy car that the NASCAR is running now, has made it so where these teams used to really almost develop all of their own parts or take these parts and remanufacture them to improve them. They're not doing that anymore because they're a single source supplier. So they are then manufacturing parts for other things. So yeah, there's their R&D maybe for the Cup side has gone down, but they are spending it in other places and whatnot. But it's just incredible. Like, so minds that have come from NASCAR, Kevin Rumley, who has kind of really changed the trajectory for Longhorn race cars. He done work with Rocket and the XR1 cars as well. He has had his time in NASCAR. I don't know what teams in association, but or whatnot. But he had his time in NASCAR. So his thought philosophy comes different, and then his really, I mean, as we see what Longhorn's doing right now, has really done a lot to change the game and thought process and some of the different approaches that it takes.
On a side note, so I don't know much about Longhorns. So I don't know enough about this to have like a colorful opinion on it, right? So I'm kind of asking your opinion here.
Okay.
So this is not a statement. This is more of a question, but it's going to be framed as a statement. If that makes sense.
Yep.
So I've heard from a lot of people that one of the ways Longhorn gathers information is like kind of mass data collection, right? Like, so everybody shares their information with Longhorn, and Longhorn kind of collects all that data and figures out what's useful and is not useful. And then they share that data back in the community a little bit more discriminatory. Like, not everybody gets all the information. Is that an accurate assessment, or is that a dramatic race car driver's assessment?
I guess there's a few ways to approach what Longhorn's doing. Obviously there are so many people that have a Longhorn car, but the thing is too, there are so many variations to a Longhorn car. Honestly, cars built one after another might be a little different. I've heard rumblings that there's a potential chance that their shock mounts on different cars that should be the same, or maybe a quarter inch of a difference. But their big teams though are they're requesting certain things that they want in chassis at times, but RTJ's Longhorn is not like Jonathan Davenport's. Shock packages are completely different. So the feedback that those crews can provide back to Kevin Rumley, to Justin Labonte and them, Steve Arpin, whoever, what side of Longhorn you want to talk about, but their information can come back, and they're lucky enough now that they have cars in so many different places that, as you said, they are getting this information back. But Kevin is also creating so many different ideas that he's trying different things. Like that car that Kyle Larson races is something that it's a prototype car. It's Kevin's philosophy trying to go into action before it becomes an actual production. Kevin also, they do a lot with data collection on cars when they test, and I don't know how much you know about it with running data on cars, but I'm not super familiar with it. But Kevin's come up with this number that a car makes the most traction after 2.5 bounces. I don't know. I don't know what the heck that means. Like,
how do what? 2.5 what?
2.5 bounces.
Interesting.
As I said, I don't know what that means. He's posted a graph. But I'm ignorant. I'm dumb.
Doesn't even seem like English. Like, that's not a terminology that
I don't get it. But
yeah, I've never heard anybody describe anything that way. I mean, maybe I'm out of the loop here, but
I mean, as we all know, nobody still knows what the device is for. It's for a problem only he knows about, that he almost had solved before it was made illegal. But yeah, just they use a lot of different information. I mean, you've got people up in the area here or whatever that you're still in, I'm from, that they're running Longhorns. Like, what, Greg Oaks has one. He's using Ty Touareg information on the car and whatnot. So they might have one philosophy that I'm sure they go back and forth with information from China Grove and whatnot. But yeah, Longhorns, and I guess too, they've got a different philosophy on how to get a car around the track than a Rocket. I've always heard that a Rocket has way different right side feel than a Longhorn, and the Barry Wright cars now are kind of completely different than both of them and what they do. And then you've got all the Longhorn knockoffs that are honestly probably providing other information back to everybody else, I don't know.
Dude, man, I gotta be honest. I want a Warrior so bad. I want one so bad I can taste it. I love those cars, and I love what I've seen people doing them. And there's not a lot around here. I just want one so bad. I don't know why. I just feel it in my bones, man. I want that car so bad. Maybe it's because my dad drove one in the 90s and 2000s, but I want one of them bad.
To me, I always ever wanted a Bernheisel because that's all I ever knew growing up. But now I'm around, and we just spoke Longhorns. I'm not really around Longhorn. I'm around Barry Wright stuff, and I've got a pretty big fascination in them. And I know you've had your exposure to those before I even really knew much about what a Barry Wright was.
I got one in my garage right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I got an 09. That fucker's brand new. Tell Barry I'll make him a hell of a deal, dude. I'll trade him straight up.
I told him you guys had the car there, and he's like, "Well, are you sure?" I'm like, yeah.
Dude, tell him it's got like 3 races on it ever. Fucking thing's never been run. Fair trade. Give me a new one. I'll give you that one.
So you're talking old cars. I went to the car show or whatever up in Hickory, North Carolina, which is a small PRI or whatever you want to call it, and TGR out of Commerce, Georgia, who they're a laser dealer. They were there. They had Jim Bernheisel there with them, and I haven't seen Jim in forever. At that point, my beard was much longer than I think he had ever seen, and I start walking towards him. He turns, he looks at me, he goes, "Hey, where's your old man at?" Holy crap, man! Like, we're a long ways from home, and one, I'm surprised you recognize who I am, but right. Again, and when we were there talking with Jim, my old man still has his 99 car, which they bought in 2001 or whatever, but it's the last car my grandfather bought, and I was telling Jim about Dad having it, and Jim's eyes absolutely lit up. He's like, "Oh my gosh, do you think you'd sell it to me? I'd love to restore it." Like, to me, one, that was really cool to see Jim was interested in I mean, kind of a piece of his own history, but
right.
Also, I was like, no, I can already tell you, Dad won't get rid of the car. He's already said that that's probably what he would get buried in rather than a casket would be that car. Oh no, I'm
asshole. That's a big asshole, dude.
Well, I mean, first off, have you seen the guy? It's already gonna be a big asshole.
Yeah.
Just to get his hands in, it's gonna be a big asshole.
Just wait till he figures out how to use his internet and listen to this podcast, dude. He's gonna be pissed. Jason's dad's gonna whip your ass.
He's got to figure out how to use a smartphone and not try to wrap his fingers around it and get rid of what you're showing him.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. To kind of like summarize, I guess, we started on Aero and then we developed into like a wider, like, late model discussion.
We got lost.
I don't know, dude. Like, I think the industry's moving at a rapid pace, obviously, and the cost seems to be going up and up and up. I don't know how much you can do there. I mean,
I have an idea nobody else likes, and I have had people tell me it'll never work, you're stupid. If I had the money, what I would do is I would have a series that ran no fucking spoiler. Fuck that thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be a pretty quick fix. I mean, yeah, it would help a lot.
Street stocks should not have spoilers.
Yeah, dude. Street stock should be stock, baby, and mini stock shouldn't have spoilers either.
Well, I mean, if that little wrapper from Japan has a big old wang on it from the factory, let it have its wang.
That's not quite like what.
I never understood the rear spoiler on a mini stock. Anyways, it's like, so
there's a lot of guys around here
on the front end.
I'm gonna get so much hate for all the mini stock guys that I talk to.
All thoughts and comments published on Whoa Nelly Media are stood by Whoa Nelly Productions.
Whoa Melly, dude.
Whoa Melly, yeah.
Whoa Melly.
You mini stock guys should hear how he talks about you when he's not on camera.
So
It's crazy.
let me. You should hear how I talk about Jesse to his face. It's about the same way. So let's.
Oh no, you're way nicer to me than you are the mini stocks. You say terrible things about me, dude.
Let's So this is more scandal, but I personally think that like a lot of mini stock racing, especially like Genesee, it is some really good racing. There are a lot of really good dudes that wouldn't be in racing any other way other than doing this. However, guys, we need to have a talk about fully tinning your car out and doing an entire body. Like that's not a mini stock. You're just cosplaying as a late model, dude. And you want to know what? Whatever makes you happy, and if it's in the rules,
makes people happy.
But like, guys, it looks ridiculous. Like street stocks look like late models, mini late models look like late models. Mini stocks look like late model. Like everything wants to be a late model these days, dude. And like I get it, I understand where the attraction comes from, but like there is no aero advantage in mini stocks. You're going like 15 miles an hour around this place.
Yeah, there might actually be a disadvantage.
Some of them noses are
rounded. I don't know. Like I don't know. Like I can't imagine.
Dude,
like
you getting that VTEC ain't nothing slowing you down.
Yeah, yeah. I'll skirt, goddamn.
Effie's also gonna be mad. We're shitting on mini stocks for the second podcast in a row.
I don't care.
Yeah, I'm torn on the tin bodies, right? Because I understand what everybody's saying. Like, you should be running. Oh my goodness, my dog's on my lap. You should be running like street stock bodies, no tin fucking late model look, none of that. I understand why everybody like they want street stocks to look like street stocks. They want 4 cylinders look like 4 cylinders, but on the flip side, man, it's a hell of a lot harder to pound out the side of a Cavalier than it is to just rip a body panel off.
Well, so
and
yeah,
hammer it out.
It is, but here's one of the things that they're doing with these cars. If you look at a lot of these mini stocks that do still have stock bodies, look inside the body panel. It's just the skin. They've taken all the bracing and everything out of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's not much to pound out there. Or right. If you want, like the guy that I think he sold his cars. I drove by earlier. There's a gentleman just a quarter mile from me here. He had 3 Saturns. Go race a plastic body. If you want a plastic body, there's your Saturn. You don't have to go put an MD3 nose on your mini stock.
Yeah.
Dude, it's so funny when they put a Camaro nose on a Cobalt, dude. It's so goddamn cute.
It's so goddamn cute. I can't really talk shit.
Plastic body mini stock.
I put an MD3 nose on my little fucking Hobbit late model, dude.
Hobbit late.
I drive Bilbo Baggins' fucking late model, dude.
Yeah, but at least it has a late model in the name, and you have, your bodies are supposed to be late models, but it's not like,
it's just miniature.
You guys sound almost the same. You probably could put a VTEC in the mini late model and it'd be the same thing.
Screw that. Go get a fucking Ducati motor with some Desmodronic in it. Get them valves flying.
Get like one of those weird like European W8 fucking bike motors. Sound like a fucking F1 car going around the track, dude.
Yeah,
69,000 RPM.
We definitely were talking about the cost of everything, but man, talking about street stocks, mini stocks are kind of getting out of hand. I kind of like the idea of the whole bone stock class, but there's always going to be someone that's going to be trying to go faster than someone else, cheating somewhere, right?
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
And the Skirta mini stocks, they're cool. I think they got the right idea going there, but again, those guys are tricking them things out like crazy. Street stocks, I mean, those guys that are going fast, they are paying some top dollar, racing's just getting expensive, like by the day, like per
First
minute.
Off, what's not getting more expensive?
That's like you shared that SCDRA car the other day. Dude was asking like what $40,000 for it.
Oh, that one you sent us. Let's see here.
God, dude. Oh my goodness. Lord have mercy. And maybe that's what they go for. I don't know. That dude
95
was like arguing...
Honda Civic hatchback. 30,000. 30,000.
30,000.
No low balls. I know what I got.
I know what I got. Yeah. Well, and like I mean,
racing for 20,000 is what's got to be worth 30,000.
Yeah, I don't.
The drivetrain alone is almost $18,000.
I've never seen a $20,000 CDRA race. Have you?
Yeah, actually down here, Screven and places like that do. They SCDRA does some actually really big races, and their big races pay a significant amount. Like maybe their lowest might be like $7,000.
Around here, it's like 2,500 to win, but still, that's a ton compared to like the $150 they pay weekly.
Oh, no.
And those guys deserve specials too.
I got the schedule up. February 3rd, Screven was 20,000. They're gonna end the year at $21,000 there. I mean, 5,000, 5,000, 7,500, a bunch of other 5,000, another 10,000, a 12,000. Yeah, I mean, to race a bang banger for that much money though is just. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a hater. I don't know if I'm super interested, though, to be honest.
I can tell you I am. And I know Kelly, the guy that runs SCDRA, is a great dude, and he's doing a lot for the sport. He runs a couple different series, but I mean, that to me, SCDRA has hurt a lot of mini stock racing.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I guess... They have a specific niche, right? Which is the loyalists to that division. And I think part of our weird bias against four cylinders is we come from that, like, I guess, generation of people where, like, I remember back in the 2000s, it just seemed like the four-cylinder guys were always fist fighting and screaming at each other.
Still are.
And, like,
still are.
Crazy amounts of drama. Like, this just crazy amount.
Facts.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I'm just... I that shit just wears me out, dude. Like, I just don't understand it.
That's when you're supposed to go get your french fries and drown them in vinegar.
I guess. I guess. So...
The dirt's going to be the seasoning on top.
So let's talk about something that because it just came up through the grapevine here, because the UMP Modifieds, my class, sometimes I wonder if the UMP Modified class, the guy, dirt car involved, they just try to like make rules just to kind of, again, I'm a big supporter, but just because I support them doesn't mean I can't be critical. They make like constant stupid rule changes like halfway through the season or like at the beginning of the season. And I want your guys' opinions about this because they were supposed to have a hard cutoff in July for no more groove tires for the rest of the year and so forth. Now they just said, just kidding. Groove tires until next year. And then they just what was it? Oh, the whole sail panel deal earlier this year where they changed them 4 times. Which was crazy. And now they also are only allowing B locks on the right rear tire only. Dude, this is...
I actually think that's a bad take. I think...
a lot of guys run them on the right front.
Dude, want to run one on the left rear on the inside, but that's just me.
So that sounds like a ploy to just sell more wheels because they want to sell those non-bead locks with the tabs to put mud plugs in. Because, like, around here, man, you need you need fucking mud plugs.
So the kind of topic at hand is, so dirt car in the UMP division at least, and I know they probably make rule changes in all their divisions all the time through the season and upsets people, but it really seems like the UMP guys have been getting. This isn't me just being a fan of them either, by the way. Just so we're clear, it's just really annoying for a lot of these guys where they had to cut their sail panels 4 times because they kept changing the rule, and half the guys are still illegal anyways. Or this B-lag. These
UMPs. Go ahead.
He got some on him. I
just can't believe how tough they've got it.
But I'm just saying, like, do you think dirt car is in the right or wrong here to keep making these like wide sweeping changes without any? It doesn't even sound like they have any more feedback other than maybe trying to sell more tires or parts. Like I said, I don't know the motive, but it keeps seeming like they keep trying to get more money.
The sale panel thing is kind of, I just don't understand it. I mean, like if you're going to make a sale panel rule, just make an exact, just stop with like changing the rules over and over again. Go, this is the size you're allowed to run. This is the shape you're allowed to run, and just let it be. Tell them where to locate it and just be done with it. If you're worried about sale panels, just come up with a rule and stick with it. Like, and number one, these rules should be done before the season starts.
Yeah.
Yes. So we should be having these discussions in October and implementing the rules in December and January, right? I mean, I know the people in the South race a lot more than us, so like I don't know if there's a right time to do a rule change, but in between seasons is the right time, right? So I'm not a fan of any changes mid-season. I mean, something like groove tires, you can make that change. That's fine. I mean, that's fine. I don't see what the problem is there.
Yeah, I don't know about changing the body rule in the middle of the season. That's not a good look.
I like the idea of like getting rid of tire grooving in general. I mean, I know that tire grooving is an advantage to some people who know how to do it well. But it also, anything that cuts down on your fiddle fucking on the car in between races, I'm a big fan of, right? And if you feel the necessity to groove your tires, try to gain an advantage, it's something that you got to do every week. It's kind of a pain in the dick, So if I like that rule. I like saying no more tire siping and grooving and just being done with it. Let people grind and wash their tires, and everybody's got to run whatever came from the factory. You know what I'm saying? So that part I'm personally okay with. I don't think that affects anybody. Like I think a lot of tire grooving, I don't think it's placebo, but it's a personal preference thing, I think. And if everybody's on the same shit, I don't understand how you can complain about that as much, right? I mean, maybe you can say you were really good at siping tires and grooving tires, and okay, I'll take that, but like now it's irrelevant because everybody's on the same tire. I don't know. There's a million other ways to make your car faster. You don't have to groove your tires. Do you see what I'm saying? That just seems like a fruitless battle to fight. Especially because if you can cut hours out of your weekly regimen, I mean, that's a win-win to me, but, I don't understand why they would be changing rules all the time. Like, so is the ones of, like the tire siping and the sail panels,
the bead locks and the tire siping, they came out today to change it again. The bead locks came out literally just this afternoon. They put it out, and then I think they made that doesn't make any
sense to me. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Like,
I don't get that one.
That I don't even get that, honestly. Like, so to me, bead locks, for me, I like bead locks because it's just easier to mount and dismount the tire. Yeah, that's why I buy bead locks. I don't think there's a competitive advantage to it. I mean, in the other there is a competitive advantage. I mean, you're gonna have a lot less flats. So, I mean, but why is that a problem? I don't get it. I don't understand that at all. I mean, that's not a rule that's saving anybody really realistically any money. I mean, yeah, it's cheaper to buy a non-beadlock wheel than it is to buy a beadlock wheel. Okay. But like, if somebody wants to spend the extra $50, fucking let them, because it makes their life a hell of a lot easier to dismount tires. That rule makes no sense to me. What I think that rule is to do, they want to sell all those wheels that are non-beadlock with tabs, because now everybody's got to go out, and they had right fronts with beadlock rings that had the mud plug tabs in them. Now they all got to go out and buy non-beadlock wheels, and I don't know. That particular rule just strikes me as trying to sell parts. I don't know if there's a percentage they're getting or what, but that rule to me just stinks of selling parts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, a lot of people are claiming that on the internet, and this is not the first time that they've made like weird rule changes. And again,
that everybody conveniently has to go out and buy stuff to accommodate.
As a simp for the UMP modified, just starting harder and harder to defend at least that sanction. You start looking at all the other the big modified sanction bodies or whatever, and I mean, UMPs look ugly with the new sail panel rules. Let's get that started, because now they just look not good, and all the other mods are starting to look better now. I guess we're about almost an hour in. Is there anything else you guys have on your mind from the last weekend that came up?
What? Yeah. I'm trying to look at the new picture of the UMP rules, and I'm not smart enough to maneuver a computer.
Dude, I was trying to look at the UMP rules earlier when we were having this discussion too. I was trying. I couldn't find the engine rules. I couldn't find.
Here
nothing.
We are. Oh, you don't like the flat cut back ones? That's old school. See, the UMPs go
back. They go all the way down the corner.
Oh no, there's 4 options for a sail panel here. Yeah, but none of them look good.
Yeah, you can really
option B and option D. You could really manipulate. Of course, I'm not reading anything. I'm just looking at pictures.
Just looking at the pictures.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find them still.
Find the PDF and scroll all the way to the bottom.
In the body rules here, it says sail panel should measure no more than 17 inches tall with a 1-inch tolerance. Now we're really putting the fucking listeners to sleep here.
Yeah,
we're just reading the UMP modified fucking rule book.
You can make it however tall, but you can still make that SOB like a big arch and create so much surface area.
No, they have to be. There's no bow in the sail panels.
All right, so
there's no. It has to be a straight. It has to be a straight down to the corner. To meet the edge of the body. That's the new rules for, well, at least it was supposed to be this year, and then they changed. I forget how many times they changed what measurement they used, but it was stupid.
So what were they doing? Like, they were probably changing the measurement on it because people were finding a way to make them bow their way out and measure the right length. But either way, I mean, I don't know. This just seems overreachy to me, man. I just, it just doesn't seem to make no damn sense to me.
Nothing ever does.
I don't know.
Racing.
I guess you got to curb it just seems like on an open front wheeled car, like really crimping down on what they're running aerodynamically. I don't know. It just seems a little bit overreachy. I mean, it looks to me like they allow spoilers, so I don't know. Maybe it is having a huge effect. I mean, with both front tires exposed, it's probably a giant wind sail anyways. I think the lap times probably reflect that. So I don't see how they're gaining these massive advantages because their sail panels bowed an extra 2 inches,
Well, take a look at the picture I just sent you guys. And then we'll talk about Bode sail panels. Because that's what I'm saying. You can give me however tall you want it, but I can create surface area.
Oh.
It's kind of like if you smushed a pizza box and the outsides of them blew out.
Yeah, but like, tell me this. What the fuck is that? How does that benefit you? Because it's open.
But it's still creating surface area.
Yeah, it's a hole though. I mean, it's not catching any wind.
It's catching. I think it's
fight about it.
You think?
You want to fucking fight, Jason, dude? You want to fucking fight,
I only fight naked, and nobody wants to see that.
I'll punch you right in your kisser, mate. I'll punch you.
So, everybody, if you want to see a live fight in person, see us Thursday night, the 28th of June at McKean County.
We're only going to fight in 10-second increments because we need smoke breaks. We each get a collective 3 punches before we get to sit down for 20 minutes. Oh, we're going to be very sweaty, and it's going to be uncomfortable for everybody involved.
I'm going to just be sweaty looking at race cars at my home track.
Yeah, I just never understood the Bode sail panels like that when they're all open. Like, they make sense if they're a flat surface, right? Like, if they're catching wind. But they don't make sense to me from a giant hole perspective. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
My gosh. Let's talk about the period of late models that ran anti-sail panels. And the one big example I can think of that would be like Damian Bidwell. He basically ran like round straps that were neon colors as his sail panels.
I don't know what you're talking about. You might have to send me a picture as an example.
Shit, I don't know.
They're going in towards the cockpit? Like they're bowed in towards the cockpit?
Like body brace straps as the sail panels. That was it.
Oh, okay. Okay, I know what you're saying now.
They were round.
Real ugly looking fuckers.
Well, they kind of look cool, I guess. I don't know. I'm not that
I just
smart.
feel like back when like my dad raced in the 2000s, nobody had the same sail panels. And it just didn't seem like a lot of guys were putting too much thought into it. Does that make sense?
Shit, no.
Really
late models back when my father was racing supers, they had them big old floppy elephant ears on the nose pieces. There wasn't any aerodynamics there. What the hell does sail panel matter?
Well, and bodies were just straight back then. Yeah, nobody had them all bowed the hell out.
Yeah.
Hell, even I have my mini late model body all bowed out. That's for different reasons, though. That's to stop dragging it on the racetrack. Because I put my fat ass in that little late model and drag everything. The fucking floor pan, the door panel, the fucking...
Looks like you gotta stiffen up them right rears.
Oh, bud, they don't sell bigger springs. I've looked, dude. Fresh out of spring rates, dude. If I could stack them, I'd put 2000s on top of each other, dude.
I don't think that makes 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, dude. I've been Googling it, dude. Where can I get an industrial 10-inch spring, dude?
Have you ever called?
There's got to be like a bulldozer somewhere.
Swift? Have you been like, this is what I want?
Hear me out. I got a theory.
Because I can tell you,
me a spring.
I can tell you that they will manufacture a custom spring.
I'm sure they will.
And they have, and you said industrial. They've done it for the company I work for. There are race car springs.
I want to be able to drive a D6 on this spring, okay?
Hey, man, if I can put 450 Swift springs in the back of my Chevy Cruze hatchback, you can do whatever you want. And that's just the Hall 604 motors.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the right rear ain't the problem, Dave. That ain't the problem. It's my fat ass. It's my rear. That's the problem, dude.
You gotta get. I can't believe it.
A lot of rotational mass in my car, bud.
Are you telling us that they're right about you?
Being fat?
Yeah. I heard a rumor on the street that you were.
I'm also 6'5", so there's that.
Yeah, that's your choice, not mine.
I'm
6'5", most of it's titties.
You could get, they do bone extensions. I'm sure you could probably get like some height cut out.
I'm having quite the problem with my height already. I don't need to add more. Or no, why would I want a bone extension if I'm trying to lose height? What are you talking about, dude?
So
you know how bones longer.
No, you know how. No, I'm saying they got to be able to do the opposite. They should be able to like cut off your leg or something.
Yeah. Give me a chainsaw. I can shorten them up.
Yeah, just cut the middle out.
Yeah. That just gave me the willies, dude.
You could have.
I got goosebumps from the thought of it too.
You'd look so funny with a shin that's only like 2 inches long, but
kneecap right to ankle.
Jordan, welcome to Jackass. Jason's gonna cut my legs off at the knees, so I can drive my mini late model better.
And
brother,
you can see this all at McKean County Raceway.
Come on down to McKean County. You'll see Jason cut me in half.
Oh boy. That'd be one way to sponsor a night, right? Just get out in Victory Lane and here comes Jason with a chainsaw. And they'd be like,
Isidore's racing advice: heel to toe is stupid as fuck. Cut her off at the knees and use your nubs. Use your nubs.
Heel to knee.
Man.
Yeah, heel to knee.
Be a man. Forget you have toes. But yeah, what are you gonna do, dude?
Cut your legs off. That's what we're gonna do.
Oh,
Just remember, there's always an equalizer. I'll get you down to my short,
for me to
fat
fit
height.
the mini late model, you kind of just got to cut me off the waist. I think I'm pretty cramped in that thing. I mean, I'm very, very cramped. So, not a lot of room. Unfortunately.
Oh, that's what you get for being such a big dude.
I have a feeling I'm going to be like that in any race car, though. I got to be completely honest. Big boys don't have a lot of room in race cars.
I think it's
not
Vinny DePizzo, probably is pronouncing that right. DePizzo. He raced the E-Mod race at McKean for my big deal, and he has to be like 6'12". Like he looks like he's a big old string bean looking guy, and I think he was complaining about how he barely fits in his race car.
Well, I mean, the height is a problem because, like, the things that come with height that make race cars a problem, right? It's not the things you're thinking about. Everybody thinks you're head above the halo, which, that's obviously a problem. But, like,
it's knees
the
below
real
the steering
problem
wheel.
is your elbows and where do I put all of me? Even if you're not a fat guy, the height is the problem.
Strong wrist, brother. Don't use your elbows.
Yeah. You just got to be stiff-wristed, and you can't move your elbows back because you hit the full containment seat, so you end up driving like 10 and 2 up like a meatball and like having your wrists all bowed out like a dingleberry, dude. Like, take a look when I'm racing and just look at the games I have to play with my hands to just be able to turn the steering wheel. It's something, let me tell you. I might as well be like resting my elbows on the deck of the race car to turn my steering wheel. It's weird.
The Victory Lane, not the Victory Lane, the Heat winner picture from State Line 2 weeks ago. Jesse tried to do like a thumbs up and a peace sign. Also, there's not enough room for any of it, and he's holding the flag. So he looks he's all like trying to throw gang signs with a checkered flag. And it looks like the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. It's so awesome.
I tried to do the shocker, and it didn't. Like, my brain didn't do the thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I ended up putting like my back 3 fingers out. Like, I finished third. I finished third doing for Dale.
I finished third in a 2-car heat race, dude.
Yeah.
Wait. You didn't watch my iRacing video, did you?
Oh, I don't think so. Which one?
Finishing last in the last car field.
Oh boy. Well, man. Boys, let's wrap it up here. We're just kind of rambling.
Yeah, we are.
Hopefully next week we'll have some more good stories from the racetrack. I only got one place to race. I think, Jesse, you're State Line too?
State Line in Bradford.
I'm going to be at Lernerville Saturday.
Wow.
Attaboy.
I don't know if I'll end up anywhere else other than doing the State Line double this weekend, just because after this last week it was a lot doing Thursday, Friday, and then twice on Saturday. It was a nightmare. So we'll see you guys for the next episode of the Shelf Hangers.
And a good run.
Dude.
Later.